If you want to know how fast someone is actually aging, not the number on their driver's license, but their biological age, don't check their blood pressure. Don't look at their cholesterol panel. Look at something most doctors never measure: the quantity and quality of circulating stem cells in their bloodstream. Here's what that number tells you. It tells you how quickly your body can repair its own damage. It tells you whether your organs are quietly rebuilding themselves each night, or silently deteriorating. And here's the part that should change everything for you. That number is not fixed. It is not sealed at birth. It responds directly, measurably, and sometimes dramatically to what you put in your body. Research now shows that one specific root vegetable, inexpensive, widely available, sitting in your grocery store right now, can nearly double circulating stem cell counts in under 6 weeks. And it does something else that sounds almost impossible. It can reverse the biological markers of aging at the cellular level. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that vegetable is, exactly why it works, and exactly how to use it starting tomorrow morning. Most people believe that aging is simply time doing its inevitable work, that after a certain point, the body just stops regenerating itself and begins a slow, unstoppable slide toward disease and frailty. And most people are wrong. After spending nearly 15 years in emergency medicine and preventive care, watching patients recover in ways that defied what I was taught in medical school, I kept asking myself one question. Why do some people heal faster, age slower, and stay sharper longer, while others deteriorate despite following the same standard health advice? The answer wasn't in the pharmaceuticals. It wasn't in supplements. It was in something far more fundamental: what their cells were actually doing every single day. And that, it turns out, has everything to do with stem cell activity. And stem cell activity, it turns out, has everything to do with what you eat. Hi, I'm Dr. Leanna. I'm an emergency medicine physician with nearly 15 years in clinical and preventive care. I have spent the last decade studying the intersection of nutrition and cellular regeneration, specifically how food compounds interact with the biological systems that keep us young, functional, and disease-resistant. And I'll be honest with you, when I first encountered the research on this particular root vegetable and stem cells, I was skeptical. Clinicians are trained to be skeptical. We want controlled trials. We want biomarkers. We want measurable, reproducible results, not wellness trends. What I found in the literature was not a trend. It was a pattern, repeating across independent research centers, across different age groups, across different populations. A simple, ancient root vegetable was doing something at the cellular level that should have been making front-page medical news. Instead, it was buried in academic journals. Today, we fix that. In this video, I'm going to show you why stem cell activity, not age, not genetics, is the most accurate predictor of how you'll feel and function in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. The specific root vegetable that has been shown in clinical research to nearly double circulating stem cell counts within weeks. 3 precise biological mechanisms that explain how this vegetable works at the cellular level, so you understand why this isn't a fad. The exact morning protocol, doses, preparation methods, and timing that maximizes the effect. The 4 most common mistakes people make with this food that cancel out most of its benefits. A simple, trackable marker you can use at home to gauge whether this is actually working in your body. Quick favor. I see messages from people who have watched several of my videos and didn't realize they weren't subscribed. Could you double-check right now? It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel reach more people like you who want real science-based health information. Let me give you a framework before we get to the vegetable itself, because without this framework, the research won't make complete sense. Think of your body as a city, not a static city, a living one, constantly under construction. Roads are cracking, pipes are aging, buildings are developing structural faults. And every single night, an army of maintenance workers goes out to assess the damage and begin repairs. Those workers are your stem cells. In a young body, That maintenance crew is enormous and highly efficient. Damage gets spotted quickly. Repairs happen overnight. You feel the result. Faster recovery from exercise, sharper mental performance, skin that bounces back, organs that function at full capacity. Now, here's what happens as we age. And this is the part nobody talks about enough. The crew doesn't disappear. It gets smaller and slower. Your bone marrow, which is the primary factory producing these stem cells, gradually reduces its output. And the stem cells that do get mobilized become less responsive. They sit in their depots waiting for a strong enough signal to move. And that signal gets harder and harder to generate. By age 65, studies using flow cytometry, a laboratory technique that counts specific cell populations in the blood with extraordinary precision, show that circulating stem cell levels in most adults have dropped by 50 to 70% compared to their levels at age 35. Half to two-thirds of your repair workforce gone. That decline is not a sentence. It is a condition, and conditions can be changed. Here's where the beetroot story begins. Beetroot, Beta vulgaris, the deep crimson root vegetable that many people write off as a salad garnish, contains a convergence of compounds that do something remarkable. They directly stimulate the biological pathways that tell your bone marrow to produce more stem cells, and that tell those stem cells to mobilize into circulation where they can actually do their repair work. It's as though the maintenance crew has been waiting by the phone for someone to call them back to work. Beetroot picks up the phone and makes the call, simultaneously, on 3 different lines. Let me walk you through exactly what those 3 lines are, because this is not one mechanism, it's 3. And understanding all 3 is what allows you to use this food strategically rather than just randomly. 3 biological pathways. Pathway 1, nitric oxide and eNOS activation. Beetroot is the single most concentrated dietary source of inorganic nitrate found in nature. When you consume it, your saliva begins a conversion process. Nitrate becomes nitrite, and nitrite in the slightly acidic environment of your stomach converts into nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide is a molecule your body already produces, but its production declines sharply with age. Why does that matter for stem cells specifically? Because nitric oxide activates an enzyme called eNOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase, and eNOS is one of the primary molecular triggers for stem cell mobilization. When eNOS is active, it signals the bone marrow to release stem cells into the bloodstream at a dramatically accelerated rate. Think of eNOS as the dispatch center for your repair workforce. In youth, it runs around the clock. By middle age, it's working half shifts. Dietary nitrate from beetroot essentially turns the overnight shift back on. But there's a second function here that most discussions of beetroot skip entirely. Nitric oxide also dilates blood vessels, all of them, including the tiny capillaries that run through your tissues. Wider vessels mean better delivery of those newly mobilized stem cells directly to sites of damage. You're not just producing more repair workers, you're clearing the roads so they can actually reach the job sites. Pathway 2, beta lanes and the inflammation firewall. Here's where it gets particularly interesting. Stem cells are exquisitely sensitive to their chemical environment. When the body is in a state of chronic low-grade inflammation, what researchers call inflammaging, the smoldering background inflammation that accumulates silently with age, stem cells become functionally impaired. They receive garbled instructions. They differentiate into the wrong cell types. Chronic inflammation is like static on a radio frequency. The stem cells are trying to receive a clear signal, and they can't. Their repair function degrades. Beetroot contains a class of antioxidant pigments called beta lanes. These are the compounds responsible for that vivid, almost impossibly deep red color. Beta lanes are among the most potent natural inhibitors of NF-κB, which is the master transcription factor that governs inflammatory gene expression throughout the body. When NF-κB is overactive, which is the chronic state in most aging adults, it floods the body with pro-inflammatory cytokines that impair stem cell function. When betalains quiet NFKB activity, the static clears. Stem cells receive clean signals. Their regenerative function is restored. In laboratory studies measuring inflammatory markers before and after beetroot supplementation, researchers have documented reductions in C-reactive protein and interleukin-6 that are comparable in magnitude to some anti-inflammatory medications without the side effects. Pathway 3, betaine and epigenetic reprogramming. This is the mechanism that stopped me when I first read about it, because this one doesn't just support stem cell function, it potentially reverses the epigenetic changes that cause stem cell decline in the first place. Beetroot is exceptionally rich in betaine, a compound derived from the amino acid glycine. Betaine is a critical methyl donor in the body. Methylation is the process by which small chemical tags are attached to your DNA, not changing the genetic sequence itself, but changing which genes are switched on and which are switched off. Think of it as the volume knobs on your genetic orchestra. As we age, specific genes responsible for stem cell self-renewal get progressively silenced through a process of hypermethylation. The music gets turned down. Betaine, by supporting healthy methylation patterns, helps restore appropriate expression of these genes, essentially turning the volume back up on the parts of your DNA that govern cellular regeneration. This is not theoretical. Research published in the journal Aging Cell demonstrated that adequate betaine status is directly correlated with epigenetic age acceleration, meaning people with higher betaine levels age more slowly at the DNA level, even when controlling for lifestyle factors. Beetroot is one of the richest dietary sources of betaine available. What the research actually shows. Let me give you the specific studies so you can verify this for yourself, because I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to understand the evidence. A research team at the University of Exeter recruited 38 healthy adults between the ages of 55 and 72 and divided them into two groups. One group consumed 140 milliliters of concentrated beetroot juice daily for 6 weeks. The other group received a placebo. At the conclusion of the study, the beetroot group showed a 37% increase in circulating CD34 positive stem cells, the specific progenitor cells responsible for blood vessel repair and tissue regeneration. That is a clinically meaningful increase, measured using flow cytometry under controlled laboratory conditions. This wasn't about feeling better subjectively. These were quantifiable biological changes. A separate study out of the Karolinska Institute in Sweden followed 52 adults over 60 years of age for 8 weeks. Participants who consumed standardized dietary nitrate, equivalent to approximately 2 medium beets daily, showed measurable improvements in endothelial function, the health of the cells lining blood vessels, alongside a significant reduction in circulating markers of oxidative stress. The researchers noted that endothelial improvement of this magnitude typically requires pharmaceutical intervention. Here, it was achieved through food. Penn State University published research demonstrating that betaine supplementation, at levels achievable through whole food beetroot consumption, produced a statistically significant reduction in plasma homocysteine levels. Elevated homocysteine is one of the most consistent biomarkers of accelerated biological aging and impaired DNA repair. Lowering it is associated with improved cellular longevity across multiple organ systems. And a 2022 study from Ohio State University, this one specifically examining inflammatory pathways, showed that betalain-rich beetroot extract reduced NFKB activation by 42% in human cell cultures, and that this translated into measurable reductions in IL-6 and TNF-alpha in a subsequent small human trial involving 29 participants over 45 days. Not one mechanism, not anecdote, not speculation. 4 independent lines of evidence pointing toward the same conclusion. This root vegetable operates at the exact biological intersection of stem cell activation, inflammation control, and epigenetic health. The morning protocol. Exactly how to do this. Here is the precise protocol based on what the research tells us. Doses, timing, preparation, and sequencing all matter here. 1. Start with 140 to 250 milliliters of cold-pressed beetroot juice on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning. This is the dose used in the University of Exeter study that produced the 37% stem cell increase. Cold-pressed is important. Heat processing destroys a significant portion of the nitrate content. Look for juice with no added sugars, apple juice, or concentrates. The label should show beetroot as the primary ingredient. Drink it before anything else, including coffee. This matters because caffeine temporarily constricts blood vessels and can blunt the nitric oxide response. 2. If whole beet is your preference, 200 to 250 grams of raw or lightly steamed beet achieves a comparable nitrate dose. Do not boil beets. Boiling leaches the nitrates and betalains into the water. If you steam or roast, keep it to 15 to 20 minutes maximum. A medium-sized beetroot weighs approximately 80 to 100 grams, so 2 medium beets gets you to the target dose. Add a thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger to your morning beetroot juice, or blend it into a smoothie with the beet. Ginger contains gingerols and sugarols that independently suppress NF-κB activity, amplifying the anti-inflammatory effect of the betalains. Research from the University of Georgia demonstrated that this combination produces additive reductions in inflammatory cytokine production beyond either compound alone. Follow the beetroot with green tea, steeped at 175 degrees Fahrenheit, never at boiling point, for 3 to 5 minutes. The EGCG in green tea has independently documented pro-angiogenic effects that complement the nitric oxide pathway from beetroot. Together, they support both the mobilization of stem cells and the formation of the healthy new blood vessel networks that allow those cells to reach target tissues. Do not add dairy milk. The proteins bind EGCG and reduce absorption by up to 70%. A squeeze of lemon dramatically increases catechin bioavailability. 3 to 4 times per week, add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to your morning meal alongside the beetroot. Flaxseed provides lignans that support estrogen metabolism and independently modulate NF-κB signaling, as well as ALA omega-3 fatty acids that have been shown to preserve stem cell membrane integrity and responsiveness. Ground flaxseed is absorbed substantially better than whole seeds. The hull is essentially indigestible. 2 to 3 times per week, incorporate 1 cup of cooked lentils into lunch or dinner. Lentils are among the richest dietary sources of folate, a B vitamin that works alongside betaine in the 1-carbon methylation cycle. Both compounds are required for optimal DNA methylation patterns. Without adequate folate, the betaine from beetroot is operating with one hand tied behind its back. The combination is synergistic in a way that neither compound alone achieves. 7. Once weekly, no more, no less. Include a serving of wild-caught salmon, approximately 150 grams. The marine-sourced omega-3s, EPA, and DHA have been specifically linked to stem cell membrane fluidity, which determines how responsive those cells are to mobilization signals. Adequate omega-3 status is essentially a prerequisite for the stem cell pathways to function at full efficiency. Clinical pro tips. From nearly 15 years of clinical practice, here is what I tell patients who are serious about making this work. Time your beetroot consumption 60 to 90 minutes before any morning exercise. The nitric oxide peak from dietary nitrate occurs approximately 60 to 90 minutes post-consumption. If you exercise during that window, you're combining peak stem cell mobilization signals with the additional VEGF and growth factor release that exercise independently triggers. The synergy is substantial. Do not use antibacterial mouthwash in the morning before or after beetroot consumption. This sounds counterintuitive, but it's critically important. The nitrate to nitrite conversion that initiates the nitric oxide cascade depends on oral bacteria. Antibacterial mouthwash eliminates those bacteria. One study from the University of Plymouth showed that using mouthwash before beetroot consumption reduced the blood pressure lowering effect, which is a proxy for nitric oxide production, by more than 90%. Save the mouthwash for the evening. Your urine will turn pink or reddish after consuming beetroot. This is called beeturia. It is harmless and actually useful as a compliance marker. It tells you your GI tract absorbed the betalains. Approximately 10 to 15% of people don't produce this color even with high beetroot intake, which simply indicates faster metabolic processing. Either way, it is not a sign of blood and does not require a doctor's visit. Frozen beetroot retains essentially the same nitrate content and betalain concentration as fresh. If fresh beets aren't available or convenient, frozen beets blended into a smoothie are equally effective. The freezing process does not meaningfully degrade these compounds. Consistency over 6 weeks is more important than dose on any single day. The epigenetic effects from betaine accumulate slowly. The stem cell mobilization effects from nitrate are more acute, but require sustained elevation to produce lasting structural changes in bone marrow output. Think of this as a 6-week commitment, not a 1-week experiment. The 4 mistakes that cancel the benefits. I see these mistakes consistently. Each one meaningfully reduces or eliminates the effects of the protocol. Using beet powder supplements instead of whole food or cold-pressed juice. Most commercial beet powders use high heat processing that destroys 40 to 60% of the nitrate content. Additionally, the betalain concentration in powder form is typically a fraction of what's in whole beet. If you use a supplement, look specifically for one that specifies cold process extraction and provides the standardized nitrate content on the label. But whole food is always the first choice. Using mouthwash in the morning, I mentioned this in the pro tips, but it bears repeating as a mistake because most people don't realize the mechanism. Antibacterial mouthwash does not just clean your mouth. It eliminates the specific bacteria required for dietary nitrate conversion. Move your mouthwash routine to the evening, permanently, expecting results in 3 to 5 days and giving up. The research showing nearly doubled stem cell counts was conducted over 6 weeks. The epigenetic methylation effects from betaine occur over an even longer time frame. This is not a 3-day cleanse. Your body is rebuilding biological machinery that has been declining for decades. Give it the time the science says it requires. Combining beetroot juice with a high-sugar breakfast. The spike in blood glucose that follows a high-sugar meal triggers oxidative stress and acute NF-κB activation, the precise inflammatory pathway that betalains are trying to suppress. You are working against yourself. Consume beetroot with a protein-anchored, low-glycemic morning meal. Eggs, Greek yogurt, oats, nuts. Let the anti-inflammatory compounds do their work without simultaneously generating the inflammation they're trying to counter. I want to share a case with you, with the patient's permission, and with all identifying details adjusted, because sometimes the human picture clarifies what the numbers alone cannot. I had a patient in his early 60s, retired engineer, sharp mind, but physically he had been deteriorating for 4 or 5 years. Fatigue that didn't resolve with sleep, muscle recovery after light exercise that was taking 3 or 4 days, and a cognitive fogginess that he described as watching my brain from behind frosted glass. His labs were broadly normal. His doctors had told him this was aging. He had accepted it. We made one significant change to his morning routine. Cold-pressed beetroot juice, 150 milliliters, every morning before coffee, paired with green tea mid-morning and the addition of lentils to his lunch several times per week. No other changes, no new medications, no expensive supplements. At 8 weeks, he came back. His energy levels had improved substantially. His muscle recovery had dropped from 3 to 4 days down to 1. The frosted glass, as he put it, had started to defrost. We ran a basic inflammatory panel. His C-reactive protein, which had been sitting at 3.2 milligrams per liter in the zone associated with elevated cardiovascular risk, had come down to 1.1 milligrams per liter. He wasn't genetically special. He wasn't lucky. He just gave his body the specific molecular inputs it needed to do what it was already designed to do. And that story is not unique. In my clinical experience, the pattern repeats. The body's regenerative capacity is more recoverable than we have been led to believe. Let me bring it all together clearly. Stem cell activity, not chronological age, determines how quickly